Everybody should know how to put a stencil on, right?
So basically you're going through what right now? The whole beginning process is?
Yeah, I'm just sketching in whatever kind of fell off on the stencil when I placed it. And, just to darken it so it doesn't disappear. What I'm going to do is just start lining. All the traditional stuff will be a heavy black outline using a number 7 liner. I'll do all that in black. Some of the internal stuff on the skull. I'm not going to do a lot of lines, but what lines I do will be with a wash, like a light gray wash.
So the whole inner skull, you're basically going to do kind of like a real light wash. And the whole outer part's going to be a hard line?
No, not all the way around the skull. The only hard lines are on the bottom edge of whatever would be shadowed, so it would be solid black, like on his eyes. You can do that solid black because you're gonna blend black from that down anyhow, so it doesn't matter if it's black. The rose, just all the black outline.
So you're using the same needle for everything?
For the outlines, it's all 7 liner. We're just kind of skipping through this too because everybody should basically know how to outline a piece.
So what kind of machine are you using to do this outline right here?
Well, we're past that, but shading right now, I'm just going through with all the solid black.
What are you using for a shader needle?
15 mag. And it's a 15 mag that I got through Kingpin.
Long taper?
Standard number 12. You can see how I kind of whip it and use a circular motion at the same time, so that I can leave the ends a little bit loose and open to add the next color. That way it keeps it from like tearing up the skin too. A lot of times I'll just kind of sketch in and use the mag sideways to just make like this pepper shaded, sort of peppery look where the shaded areas are, so I can go back into it with another color and still not tear it up. A lot of solid black in this. Well, in any of the like realism pieces, I use a lot of black.
So basically you're just whipping it out and you're leaving the ends open?
Yeah.
So when you're saying solid black, you're just using just a straight black, no washes involved at all?
Yeah, straight black. National triple black. That's all. That's like been the truest black that I've used, and it stays really, really dark. I'm using a Keith Underwood, Mike Malone Bulldog right now for shading. It's kind of an old school style shader.
So pretty much when you're laying down all your blacks, you're just basically going off your reference piece?
Yeah, what I'll do is just up the contrast a little bit. And I go in a lot with some, like the dodge and burn tools in darken areas in Photoshop. lot of times, like the shading right now, doesn't have to be completely solid. I leave everything loose until, the overlay of colors is what makes the saturation.
Solid.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people try and get it
Really, really dark.
solid the first time, and it's really not important. All I'm doing is just kind of sketching it in there so that I know where all the shadows were, and trying to do it with, before the stencil gets all rubbed off. But I use Dettol to apply the stencil, so that helps a lot as far as keeping it on there. Now I'm just drawing in shadows under the tongue and the jawline, just to kind of pull that 3D effect off. Even though the traditional images in this piece are flat, like real flat, except for the bottom of the tail kind of goes into a little bit more depth.
So you're still using the same, just straight black on the shadowing?
Yeah, because I'm using straight black because whenever you use color over the top of it, it's going to water down that black. It's going to make it to appear to be less black, so it doesn't really matter if you hit it up with straight black or
not. But you still don't want to get real, like, solid.
Not real solid.
You just want to leave it open, like you were saying, so that you can lay over the next color and not tear the skin up.
Yeah.
So you use the same technique, just cross-hatching and circular motions, just kind of getting it in there.
Yeah.
And what do you use to wipe off, your inks and stuff? Like, use a product or just...
Nah, straight water. The only thing I use while I'm tattooing is straight water. See right there, you can see how I'm using the mag sideways. Because then it pulls it up, and it kind of it kind of has that whipped out look without actually having to whip it,
Yeah. So,
okay, now, I'm going into what I'm doing is mixing a dark purple with some yellow. And it gives you like a different kind of brown tone. And I would use that for like any kind of gold stuff I would try and pull off too.
So you're using the purple and the yellow mixture, and you're going right on top of your blacks coming out.
Yeah.
And you're still leaving that loose for your next color?
Yeah, I still leave that pretty loose. But I blend it, I still go pretty dark and blend it right next to that black and continue in the dark shadowing, but it's not completely black,
So do you do anything else, like as far as when you're mixing, do you use any kind of water, you wash it in?
Nah, straight up. Dipping into purple, into yellow. And that's intense dark purple mixed with some canary yellow from Starbright. I like it because they're both not real thick, they're kind of runny.
So it's kind of like it almost
kind of like a wash,
yeah, kind of wash,
but it's straight, color.
Not like your traditional powder colors that they're real thick.
Yeah. I think it'd be really hard to pull something off like this using like a real thick ink like that. The way my machines are set up and the way that they run, I really couldn't do it.
So this machine that you're using now, is it the same machine you use for your black? Same 15 mag?
Yeah.
And is it like a long stroke or a short stroke?
It's got a pretty good. That's a little bit more than medium stroke, and it's pretty consistent.
Is it back off a lot, or is it real punchy?
Nah, it's punchy.
Real punchy.
It's real like steady punchy. It's not slow and punchy at all. It's just like a real smooth shader.
Just kind of get it in there.
Yeah.
And what
I don't really like to mess around and keep going over one spot, so I try to get it in on the first shot,
So right now you're
but I try to get it in on the first shot, but it's purposely made to be loose, not real solid. Like all them little dark areas, the spots I'm hitting now, That's just like underlaying color for the colors that are going to go on top.
Okay. So if you want to, you're just basically the same way with your black. You're just peppering it out, and the lighter areas are just gonna.
I'm just going to continue
Yeah.
to fade. Yeah.
So the tattoo never looks complete until it's complete.
Yeah.
It's just it shouldn't. You shouldn't try to complete the tattoo right when you're doing the black or right when you're doing your purple,
Nah,
yellow.
I don't. I leave it real open to change. You know. See how I hit up all the any undershadow like that. I'm just kind of using the mag sideways so that it still has that whipped out look, you know? There's no real edge on any of them.
So it'd almost be like the tattoo's real choppy until you finish laying all your layers. And then now you're overlaying over that black you laid down. Huh?
Yeah. And I'm just bringing it up closer to the bottom because I'm going to leave like a little spot of like a lighter color tone underneath that snake. So it's not just straight black under the snake.
So you can bounce back and forth.
Yeah, that's all straight black onto the...
Oh, you're in the traditional areas.
Yeah.
So you're just doing it all over again, except you're in your traditional stuff.
Yeah. I wanted to get into the skull first because I find if I do the blacks first and just get it done, I don't have to worry about anything falling out. And all the dark areas, like the solid black areas in that skull, once you get those in there, the rest of it's pretty much downhill. If you have all that heavy black to give you the indication of where the shadows are, the rest of it's simple, you know. It's just like completing the fade to the mid-tone. I go real heavy in there. Don't leave a lot of space when I do the white, but white should be kind of used sparingly. But I do like areas with pretty good chunks of white in there, just because you need it to create that illusion of one side being heavily lighted and the other side dark. I see a lot of people that either don't use enough black or they use too much white and they don't have the mid-tone, or they use just straight up all mid-tone and they don't have any contrast at all. It's kind of like a puzzle, and it just needs all the pieces, you know.
So right now it's just basically all the black and the traditional stuff, and then start all over again, huh? Start layering colors.
Yeah.
Do you layer colors on the traditional stuff too?
Yeah, it's going to be less layered on the traditional side. It is.
So you're going to go more solid black on the traditional than you did on the skull?
Nah, not necessarily. It's more like neo-traditional style and anything goes. So, I mean, it's pretty much like whatever you want to do.
So
is cool.
Pretty much that's your dipping technique there, huh? You just kind of go from
I run it for a little bit in there. What I'm doing now, that green is just kind of like some background color.
And that green you mixed with the black?
Yeah, I took the black and mixed it straight into the mint green. And it's Dermaglow mint green.
And that would almost basically be like a wash, but you're still using another pigment so it's strong.
Well, what I'll do is dip it in the black and then dip it into the mint green and then hit the water for just a sec. And so it is a little bit washy on the background. And then I just like pick out random shapes to make it look kind of cloudy or smoky, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll just keep adding more mint green and bring it out, pull it out.
So the more you come out to it, pulling it out, you're just going more and more into the mint green side.
Yeah, just keep adding
and
more.
And it gets
more.
brighter and brighter
Yeah.
from darker.
Less black.
It's like you build it up.
Yeah. Definitely. And I just have like sporadic gray greens going throughout the background. So it kind of gives you that illusion of it being like smoky or cloudy or something.
basically you just kind of jump back and forth throughout the whole tattoo. You really don't just stay in one spot, huh?
I'm all over the place. I never really stick to just one area. I find that way I keep from getting bored.
So the whole background of this is going to have that grayish mint green looking.
Yeah. I don't like to do too many multiple colors in the background because a piece like this has a lot going on, so you want a simple background. Now, if it was a simple main image, then the background could be a little more complicated.
And you're still using the same 15 mag machine?
Yeah, it's the same.
So at the beginning, when you were lining, like the liner needle, was it like a special needle, a special grouping or tightness or anything? Or?
Yeah, it was a 7. I think I mentioned that before. Just a straight up 7 liner made with number 12.
Number 12, no bug pin or anything?
Nah, no big bug pin for this. Normally I would if I was gonna do like a portrait of a person or something. I would use like a 7 liner made with number 8 needles.
So right here you're laying down like a purple or?
Yeah, it's purple, and it's a medium purple, like intense. Like a medium purple from intense, mixed with the black, just to make a smoother fade. Put a little black in there. And then,
would you do the same thing? Would you mix it with black first and then keep moving towards the purple?
Yeah, same as the green. See that? I kind of open the skin up a little bit first, and then slowly work my way into it. Just to help kind of create that fade, that smooth fade. But in there, you're going to see in a sec, I'm going to pull out some little like rounded areas that look like maybe like a lumpy, bumpy type texture on them.
So you just kind of ran the mag through there, cross hatching, just opening the skin.
Yeah.
And then you do your thing.
Now I'm back into the. I just keep adding more of the purple, lightening it a little bit. See that? I'm just randomly creating these little bumps. Just hitting the underside, the shadowed side. And do it using the sideways mag. All about using mag sideways. Thing is, whenever you do stuff like that, you gotta make it pretty dark, like those little rounded bumps, because if not, you're just gonna lose it when you start adding the lighter colors.
So you kind of lay down all those little bumps pretty solid. So when you're going back over them, but not too solid to where you tear the skin
Not too
up.
solid, but a little. It's in there. The spots that you see that are dark are pretty much in there. I'm just zigzagging through it. You can even make like little round circles. It's like a free for all on that stuff.
That one, it's kind of like wherever they fall, but they becomes that illusion that they're there.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be real planned out. And if you do them real loose, like when you start just mapping out the little circles, you always got the room for error, to fix it up if you want to make them more like in line or whatever. I think something like that should just be real sporadic, though. It shouldn't be like real technical. It's similar to crosshatching the whole thing out.
That's just kind of one of your techniques, something that you do.
Yeah. But I do that sort of stuff a lot, just random shapes and shadows here and there.
So it's not such a flat look, huh?
Yeah, I kind of had the snake changing from being straight up flat traditional into something that was a little less traditional.
A little more rounded and depth.
I debated on throwing like a blue glow or something on the bottom side. But then again, I didn't want to get like real complicated with any kind of color theory stuff.
So are you going back in there with like a more solid purple instead of with a lot of black in it now?
Yeah, this would be more like the tube cleaned out. Start going it from the medium purple into a lighter purple, more like a lavender.
But you're gonna definitely go back into what you started and come out.
Oh yeah. See how you're just kind of going from the black, like you'll even go into the black a little bit and then come off of that. And see, when you use that mag sideways, it already makes that smooth
texture.
Smooth out. Like, it'd be like whip shading, but you don't even have to whip it out because the needles are already doing it. You've got them at an angle, So it becomes like I don't know if you're ever on like Photoshop and you use like an airbrush that's got like a soft round with a 50% flow to it or whatever. Kind of the same thing, not a hard edge. It becomes like a soft edge on it.
So some areas you're just going to use that straight lavender type purple on the traditional stuff?
Well, yeah, towards the end of... This is still like a little more on the medium side.
Man, you can already see where it's kind of looking in depth, like the nose is like real deep.
Yeah.
So what colors are you using on this piece?
This is back to the purple and yellow. A little more yellow, a little less purple this time.
To give it more like a brown kind of look?
Yeah, it's going more towards the brown.
So you got kind of a multiple thing going, like you can use that same two colors and make lots of colors out of it.
Huh? Yeah, because it starts changing. The longer that you let your machine run in the yellow for a sec, the more you'll see it become like a different color.
Same technique, you're just brushing it out, preparing it for the next color, huh?
Yeah. Still doing a little bit of shadowing and some little minor spots here and there on some stuff that I didn't want to be like completely black. I wanted to use like a more of a brown tone, just because everything can't have a black shadow on it.
So you just using straight purple and yellow? You got any black in it at all?
Nah, straight yellow and purple. See, I just put like a couple little edges in there, just to create like little like crack areas and stuff, you know. Even like in there, just putting like random little things in there to give it less of a smooth texture and more bony.
So this is still basically in your mediums, huh?
Oh yeah, there's
You're
no light tones coming. They'll be coming in a sec. There's just a lot involved in this piece because like even like that rose, the background, it starts taking up a lot of time. You can see really well like I'm going back into that with some of the dark purple, just to darken up some little spots and then putting in random spots. So it'd be the equivalent of like pits or something.
So it looks really dark, but in actuality, it's got enough room to layer another color to make it lighter.
Yeah. Going in circular motions, but at the same time, I'm pulling it out. See, it's kind of like digging a hole and throwing the dirt at the same time. See, some of that may appear to start being washy, but it's not. It's that real watery canary yellow from Starbright and the purple that's more on the watery side.
Yeah.
See, now I'm getting into a little more yellow, less of the purple. Now I'm just shadowing out the edges of where the teeth would be, missing teeth.
So you got a lighter tone, and you're just kind of going in there, but you're still putting it in.
Yeah, I'm still going right next to that other color that I already laid in there, but I'm just making it more solid with another tone. And at any point when I feel something needs a little more dark,
You just go right back into it.
go right back into it. And I left it open enough to where I can do that, not have a big chewed up spot in it.
It's kind of like you did over in the traditional area. You just kind of open the skin so that you're just going right back in it.
Yeah.
Do you ever worry that, like, when you get into your lighter stuff, the black stuff will kind of bleed into it or something?
Nah, because see, like right in there, when you look at the black patches, there's all kinds of little open areas where it's not solid, like in that eye. When you really look at it, there's like I left enough space in there to pump another color in there, like right over the top if you want. That's something that I always do is like a fail-safe mechanism for adding something.
Kind of like if you don't need it, then you can go ahead and finish filling it in.
Yeah, like once I get towards the end, you'll see me kind of hit it up like with some more black if I want it real solid black. And because I sometimes I'll guess like not really guess, but sometimes I'll be like, man, maybe I'll put some color in there instead of having solid black. Kind of like right there, I just went back into all that black, and then it became a lot more solid.
You obviously you don't see you riding the tube much, so you just kind of hit it. Your machine's set to just hit it and just goes right in. You set your needle.
Yeah, it starts to kind of back up. You can tell how it penetrates and then starts to back up a little bit, and then I just kind of ease off, so I'm not really pushing the skin that much. I'm letting the machine do all the work.
Yeah, it's like
especially right there when I use it sideways like that. Man, it's just the tip of the needles going in there. I'm not really forcing it in at all.
kind of going back into that black.
Yeah, with some lighter, more yellow in the purple.
I guess that's what makes your tattoo so hard to understand, not knowing that you're not using a brown when somebody thinks you're using a brown.
Yeah, but now they know. Hopefully they'll give me some credit on that one.
What are you doing right there? Just kind of putting spots in the head?
Well, yeah, just little shadowed areas and a little bit of discoloration in the skull. Because if you look at a real skull, especially one that's aged a little bit, it's yellow and it'll have like darker brown patches in it. The color's not real consistent. It's more speckled and patchy, So I'm just duplicating that. The best thing you can do is look at the real object, So I've owned a few human skulls here and there and checked them out pretty good.
So your photo reference has to be pretty solid for you to be going off of, right?
Well, for you to make a good image, you got to have a good photo reference image if you're going to try and duplicate something real, So, I mean, if you pick out a horrible shot of a skull, I mean, it's not going to make that much better of a tattoo. I mean, reference is for something like this, it's got to be really good. Right now I'm going back and just bumping up the lines because I just kind of sketched them in there before. I was kind of just trying to lay it out so I didn't lose a lot of it.
And it doesn't really hurt the skin because you kind of just sketched them in there, so you just kind of broke open the skin.
Yeah. But now I'm laying down a real solid line.
And you definitely don't ride your tube either on your...
Nah, I float it.
Float it.
Because whenever you ride the tube, the tip of the tube, all you're doing is like pulling the skin up between the needle and the tube. And you kind of end up chewing it up. So if you float the needle, it's just the needle's going in the skin.
So you're going back into the skull and you're going ahead in the dark areas, you're just coming right off with a real solid black line.
Yeah. Just going ahead and making that like real solid. Now I'm just shading out the rows. And I'll kind of flip-flop the black. Kind of anything goes on that style of stuff anyhow.
So you're never really worried that your black's gonna go into that real light colors that you laid in there, those medium colors?
Nah, especially if you put down enough ointment, you don't have to worry about it.
So you would say keep using your ointment.
I would keep all the stuff that's already done lubed. Yeah, real good. If not, yeah, you somewhat stain it, but usually when it heals out, you'll be all right. I find that if you do it in stages like this, once it's already bled out for a little while, and as long as you haven't chewed the skin up, it's not going to take any of that stuff anyhow. Even if you were started doing black next to an area that had white in it, I mean, as long as you applied it right, it's not really going to affect it. Now I'm just hitting that mint green straight, like mint green with a little bit of a darker green, all icon.
So you're going straight from your black, layering it on there with a darker kind of green.
Well, I hit the dark green and then hit the mint green just a little bit, so it's more of a mini green. And then just keep adding more mint green to make the fade. That's straight up red.
What kind of a red are you using?
It's Millennium monthly red.
Like monthly period red?
Yeah. A lot of people don't like it, but
do you recommend any other reds or?
The Eternal Red's good. I hear nothing but good things about Eternal. But personally, I don't use it, so I don't want to, not going to lie to you and say, yeah, I use that, because I don't. See, another important part when I was shading just a second ago was still need if you're going to shadow that rose, then there should be a shadow all the way across. You know what I'm saying? So if a shadow is being cast off the skull, then you need to shadow all the way over that rose and ignore any of the color fades or blends or any of that. I'm just making the red, like the black to red, a little more solid by adding black to the red and then coming back and fading it out.
Are you using a round needle?
Right now I'm using a 9 round from Worldwide.
Would it be like a loose count? Or?
Yeah, it's pretty loose. It's a round shader needle. 9 round. I like it to make things solid that are small in little tight areas because it's kind of like using a Sharpie.
So that machine that you're using to pump that needle in, is it a long taper also?
It's got a long throw. The needle's just a regular number 12. I'm using a Aaron Kane Jonesy, just like the ones. Now what I did for that color is just the red mixed with a little bit of orange and then a lot of white. So it's almost on the peachy side. Orangey red. Now this is the darker green mixed with some of the canary yellow. And I'm just fading it out, whipping it out the whole way. I like to get things done real quick. So I find if you sit there and just dwell on one thing too long, you're going to probably eat it up.
So using the same Aaron Kane machine, the same 8-round needle on all this traditional stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a 9-round.
9-round.
And then that would be like more yellow, even a little bit of white, just to continue the fade. I left a little skin showing, but it's real hard for me to leave a lot of skin showing. I start thinking that I'm ripping the customer off, you know. If you do a gigantic tattoo and a lot of people charge just because of the size of the tattoo or whatever, I can't finish that thing in 30 minutes and charge them $400 and live with myself. You know?
So you like to get that skin saturated?
Yeah, I like to utilize what's there.
Just kind of doing the same thing you did with the body of the snake, just kind of going in there and putting some texture, making it look like.
Yeah, a little bit, like there's some little folds or something. Still keeping it pretty flat though.
Is that like the green mixed with the yellow again?
Yeah. That's straight up red. There I'm going back and using that peach color that's made with the red, orange, and white. And even hitting it up in the mouth of that.
That color pretty much goes with red all the time.
Yeah, if I'm gonna go more on the peach side and less on the pink side. On any time that I'm blending out colors on red, rose, or
So
whatever.
if it doesn't look good when you use that pink.
Well, I mean, you could even use like the Tokyo pink or whatever, but just for me, I don't really like to go pink on a red rose. But even there, like, I don't stick to any one thing either. I'll throw more orange on one side, maybe a little more white on one side. No, there's no rules to it. Straight up yellow with a little bit of white.
So pretty much in all your little tight areas, you just use that round. You don't really depend on your mag needle, huh?
Yeah, it's a tight spot, and I don't know. It seems like mags don't really get down to the business. You know, I'm trying to get it done, and I could sit there and turn my mag every which way to try to get in them little spots, but why? I got that guy.
Make
Got a little 9-round working that's just gonna knock it out fast. You know.
You're not ever worried that 9 rounds going to kind of choke the skin, or not really, because you're just kind of going one hit or quitter on it?
Yeah, I get it done. Like, I don't go back into much of the stuff that I did with the round. Now I'm going back into the rose on the red areas with a more solid red just to make it a little more on the red side. Because red, it's a tricky color to get to look right because you always think it's solid, but it's usually probably not solid.
So you kind of let it sit for a minute, go right back to it.
You start seeing like the little spotty areas. Same with that black. That's what I was talking about earlier. If I think that it's going to need like dark black or more of that dark purple, then I left it kind of open for me to do this right now. But once I hit it again, it's solid.
Going back into your mediums.
Yeah, this would be medium purple mixed with the yellow instead of the dark purple mixed with the yellow. So now it's a little bit different.
So you
and that's more white added to it. Because,
cause
okay, the medium tone purple with the yellow has a little bit different look than the dark purple did.
so you got some more white pigment in it.
Well, yeah, there's some white in there with it. So from this point on, it's just adding more white to what's already mixed. The
And
purple.
you're still not heavily saturating it because you still want to keep going on top of that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just bringing it out. Just bringing out more of that color from the other color. And all them large patches that I'm doing right now, real patchy. Just so I can see how it looks all kind of like cracked and bumpy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's just to give it that illusion. The whole thing's a big illusion.
So your tattooing is more on the art side than just a flat traditional tattoo. You kind of really put a study into it, huh? Use real good reference points.
Well, I look at the reference for a long time. Like in my head, I've already mapped out how I was going to do that tattoo. Like completely, start to finish, I've already done the tattoo in my head. So that way I'm not guessing. And for anybody that was at the seminar when I did this tattoo, I didn't stop. I maybe took a few little breaks here and there just to let the person smoke and everything, and then I was right back on it. Like I already knew exactly how it was gonna play out.
So you're just bouncing back and forth. You're still using that lighter color.
Well, no, I'll still go back and do like some of the dark purple with yellow, light purple. You know, there's different shades of purple to get the different tones of the brown.
Are you washing it out with water at all?
Nah.
It's always just straight.
Straight. The only time I'll dip into the water is a lot of times, especially if I'm starting to go into the white like this stuff. I'll try to hit the water a couple of times to keep it from drying up in the tube real bad, you know?
And what color are you using here? Still using the real light purple with the
Now
yellow?
that's lavender. The first was the dark purple, then the medium purple. Now this is the lavender mixed with yellow.
So you still stay in the same family, you just go lighter and lighter and lighter.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the lavender mixed with yellow. And it's all intense. All my purples are intense. So I'll buy the dark, light, I think it's dark purple, light purple, and then lavender. Because the light purple from Intense is actually that medium looking purple. Yeah. So I'm just hitting it all up with some yellow and lavender. Maybe just a tad bit of white here and there. This piece really don't come to life until you hit the white. Because the white's what does it.
So really, until you execute it, the piece is just still as flat as can be.
Well, no, it's already coming off rounded. The snakehead's not rounded at all, but that's contrasting styles and kind of. I just like the way it looks, and I've been trying for a long time to try to integrate the traditional style stuff with more of a realistic style, but it's real hard. And see, when I wipe with I use water, so when I'm wiping with the water, it kind of actually might give it that little bit of a wash edge to it because the skin's got a little bit of that water on it. That's why it looks like I'm using a wash, but I'm really not. I'm just wiping the skin with water. And you almost have to just keep keep wiping and have it pretty moist to keep all that ink from just like smearing everywhere. I'd rather just be able to just wipe it off, get it out of the way.
But you consistently still want to keep lube on there, huh?
Yeah, I'm constantly lubing that thing. There's the sideways mag, but just the opposite direction. Like I use the mag sideways a lot, but I'm not using it in a fashion to where you would be making a line with it. I'm just using it angled, you know. Now I've already started like going from the lavender mixed with yellow into the white. But by the time you get to the end of this tattoo, the yellow is already kind of turning brown from mixing back and forth. But that's how I like it because then you've already got that color that you had to mix in the tube. Then you already have it mixed in your cap, you know. So now I can just go right back over the top of all that medium stuff and it not chewing it up because there's all them little gaps in there, you know, right in there. Now I'm just worried about making everything that's loose solid. And you can tell the spots that need to be hit again.
Yeah, pretty much you can see the whole thing just completely taking shape. Lighter and lighter you go.
But I'm not keeping it uniform. I think that's what adds to that more realistic effect to it because I'm not just completing a fade. I'm like doing little patchy areas here and there throughout the whole piece. You know, it's not it's not a smoothie blend piece at all. But it still comes off as being smooth and blended out. Even there, still not satisfied with the solidness of the black, so gotta hit it again. Back to the dark purple and yellow. It's kind of like when I get to this stage of it, it's like let's go ahead and make everything solid as possible. because it's about to be done. I try and get all that done before I start throwing white in there. Just adding some little dots here and there. You can pretty much put those everywhere. It's just a matter of...
It's kind of like a trademark. You can kind of make your own deal where you kind of do something with your tattoo.
Yeah.
It's like kind of your own. So you're just going to go through the whole thing and just make everything really solid that you think you really liked in place?
Yeah.
And all this comes because you just didn't overwork the piece, so it gives you that.
Yeah, I mean, if you sat there and had it solid the first time, I mean, really, really solid, and then you tried doing something like this, you would probably just eat it all up, and it would heal like crap. If you leave it more open and little gaps here and there of some not so solid spaces, then you can go back and add more ink to it. So, got more options on just color tones and color patches,
And the areas that you're gonna like execute with like white or your lightest color, you kind of just barely leave open because you're still gonna go over the other stuff.
Yeah.
So that way you don't end up with just a solid white spot.
Yeah. Now this part, I think I've already gone to the straight up yellow with white. No purple involved. Just white and yellow.
So you never.
And I'll do that before I even go to the white.
You never really use just a solid one color. It's always a blend.
Yeah, until I get to white. I'm just hitting up stuff that on the reference photo had some light hitting it, But it wasn't real white, so I went ahead and used the yellow on that. And then I just go right back into the last color that I used,
Do you ever worry that like you're gonna use a color and it's just gonna be way opposite from the color that you're going right on top of?
As far as what, like a crazy highlight or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I stray away from really doing a lot of stuff like that because if I'm gonna do like a crazy highlight or low light or something, I'll usually put it next to a black shadowed line. Like I'll shadow it with the black on one side or whatever, and then it just goes next to that black area, so it doesn't really go in like right into the middle of the piece or something with the crazy lighting. It's always got that black border, around it.
You're going straight white here.
Yeah. Straight up white. And on them larger patches, I'll lay that solid white in there, but I still might come back with some of that yellowish white. It just depends on if I like it the way it looks. If it looks too much like it's white, then I'll hit it up with the yellow and white again. Because you don't want to overpower the thing with white either.
You don't want to have like, I've noticed in a lot of tattoos, especially some of the ones that I've done, when I go back with the white just it's like a big round circle of white.
Yeah. I kind of like fade everything in. Like I create these little circles, See, like that right there. And the spots that are left right in there, it's basically little areas of circles where everything is shaded inward. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, just doing large patches of white, blending it back out into the colors that we already did. So it's straight up just like a circle. Everything's coming inward towards a circle of white, you know?
Are you gonna do all your white highlights with the mag, or you may go in there with the round?
I may go in with a little, well, maybe not a round, but like a liner probably. The key to having white look really white, besides having your tube, really, really clean when you dip into the white and don't stain it, but I think the less times you hit the white, the more it's going to be white.
So, like, if you try to work that white in there over and over and over, you just kind of like
water it down, and then it gets all muddy. It's not really white.
So you kind of want to have a good machine packing it in there, so you can get that one hit.
Yeah, definitely.
Using the edges of the needle of the mag, just kind of like a liner.
Yeah. Now I'm just hitting it with some straight up yellow. Some little areas where I'm like, man, that needs like a little bit more color. Doesn't really need the brown. Yellow. Just the whole thing's basically made up of purple, yellow, and white. That entire skull. Black, purple, yellow, and white. See, I'm not really smoothing out. Now I decided, man, I just want to go some orange in there, some whited out orange.
So you got orange and white mixed?
Yeah. It's kind of like just when you think I'm going to zig, I zag. I thought it would be good to have a little bit of that in there because really the purple yellow thing has a tint of green to it. So a little bit of orange in there just really kind of pulls it out.
You kind of use the
contrast
orange. You're using the orange more in your darker areas?
Yeah, just for like a different hue in the shaded areas. It's pretty heavy on the yellow and browny color. Just wanted to break it up. There I go with some just straight up mint green. Because it was looking a little bit dull, and I think the background needed to be a little more poppy. Just coming all the way up to the edge. So it's almost glowing green. Just by adding that mint, it's already toned down the darkness of the background. Because the background before was real muted. Just put a little line of that mint green.
Using your liner for that?
Yeah, back to 7.
Went to the solid white with your liner.
Yeah, solid white. I think that's the. It's a liner machine from Justin Martinez. They use it for any smaller groupings. Because I believe that's the number 7, maybe the 8s.
So it would be like a bug pen, number 7.
Yeah, 7 liner maybe.
7 liner.
I'm just putting little highlighted dots on the bumps of that snake, just to make it look kind of like it's a little bit shiny or wet.
Is this pretty much like how you're going to execute it?
As far as
like just this white highlights, and that's pretty much all you're going to do to the skull in the traditional part of it? Or do you, even after that, if you see something, do you still go back in?
Yeah. I'll look at it several times.
Do you worry about losing those highlights, going back in with color?
Nah, not necessarily. I mean, like I said, if you use enough ointment, you're not going to stain it. Because it just creates a shield. I like to use white a lot. But there's this fine line between overdoing the white, so I try to back off of it sometimes. So it's just crazy to see the progression of it, you know.
Yeah, it is. You're still going back in with kind of a yellow, huh?
Yeah, yellowy white. Just throwing little cracks and stuff in there, you know. Especially on the areas that I didn't want to just throw solid white into. See, like right there above the eye, I wanted to throw like little highlighted areas that might be just kind of poking out.
So you're back at your 15 mag with
Some purple, like the lavender mixed with some white.
And just
to make that a little more on the solid side and less flat.
So it's not necessarily completely traditional. You still kind of try to get it a little
more neo. It's pretty much whatever goes. I mean, anything goes on it because it's your piece, it's your art. I mean, you gotta. I don't like rules. I don't like somebody telling me I have to do something a certain way. So that's why I don't tattoo by the book or the unwritten rule of like most people that would have learned from old timers or something. I mean, I've learned a lot from some people that have been in the industry for a while, but now I apply my own thing. I don't see where you have to adhere to it.
So it's really hard for you to even do a flat tattoo. Like
Nah, it's not hard.
You kind of.
I mean, it's fun to do a flat tattoo, but a lot of times if I do something that's real flat and I post it like on whatever site that I'm on, don't get a lot of response from it, so it keeps pushing me to do the more of the realistic stuff. Now I'm just going through with straight orange, just to bring out some of the shadowed areas next to that white, make it more fiery. But that's part of me checking it out for a little bit and then going back to it. I like to jump around too so that I can do that.
So you'll be able to have time to watch it.
Because a lot of times colors will start mellowing out and you'll see really what it's going to look like after it sets there for a while. So,
do you ever like to do a piece like twice when it comes back in healed, or you like just knock it out one time?
so now I'm going back and hitting it with the black even, and the dark purple and yellow, like really, really dark. Just because I wasn't satisfied in that, with that shadowed side.
Is that because you thought it needed more depth?
Yeah. Well, it needed to look like there was a heavier shadow on that side for sure. And then I wanted to make that look more like there was like a separation down this, like a center line to that skull almost. And that's the lavender with yellow with a little bit of white. That's straight up yellow.
That's where you kind of get your washi with your wiping and stuff.
Well, because it looks washy. Now it's the done product.